But if you want more of the history of the Claw, goes back many, many years. I think it was when I was still living in New York, and divorced. I managed to get in touch with a couple of other guys. And back in those days, it was not like today's internet, where if you want to meet somebody who has similar interests, you just, go to any forum, find a forum, and there you are. It was pretty much luck. And so I managed to be in touch with David Knight of DavidKnightBondage.com, Ken Scott of AES, although he was not Ken Scott at AES at that time either, as well as Brent Smith of Chivalry Video, who actually introduced us all. And in those days, see, nowadays, if you want to pirate something, you put it on a file sharing site or something like that, and you have suddenly shared it with millions of people if you want, if they're interested. Back in those days, it was more like you had your VHS, you copied the tape, and you sent it to that one other person who has the same interests as you. And one of those guys, I'm not sure.
Sort of ends up being a chain tape.
Right. Of course, in reduced quality as it goes along.
Exactly. It's okay.
You have to be a certain age to appreciate that.
If you just recopy it onto a new tape, it'll all be fun. That's what my father was fun.
So. One of those days are gone for good.
Those days are gone.
Oh man! So one of those guys sent me a more contemporary movie serial type thing. It was produced by I don't know who, some company that's probably long gone by now. And for whatever reason, I sent it on to Harmony, and why I don't know. I guess like, can you do something like this? And RQ Harmon looked at it, and he liked the idea. A few months later, I'm out there, I'm working for them, and they've assigned Lorelei, known as Christine Bach, to do this, 1940s movie serial takeoff, which is called TBE, to be continued. Why not TBC? You may wonder, because most of the Harmony Video series were given designations of 1, 2, or 3 letters, nothing more than that. And TBC had already been taken. It was the the topless bondage compilation.
Oh, sure.
They repackaged the previously shot scenes that had toplessness in them. And,
sure it was.
So it became.
Now we know.
And Lorelei was brilliant. She devoted a lot of time to this series. It was basically broken into 3 parts, 3 different chapters, episodes that ended up in cliffhangers. One was started out with Catherine Beaumont as Kathy Drew, detective. No, she wasn't a detective; she was a reporter. I'm sorry, that other Drew is the detective. So didn't want any copyright infringement there. And the focus of that was elaborate rigging. And there was Mistress Meow Conquers the World, and that was Elise de Medici as this Catwoman type character taking on all these superheroines. And then there was The Crime of the Century, which was the Crooked Claw, and basically featured like me learning how to do on-screen rigging on the job. So it'd be interesting to see from the very first to the very end how I got better at it. And so each one of these little segments had their own different thing for either elaborate rigging or superheroine, high fetish type stuff, or costuming, and of course the on-screen rigging. And in the took a lot out of Lorelei because she was still editing Bondage Life magazine at the time. So it went on for 8 tapes.
Wow!
And so
it's a long series.
That was a lot of work.
It's a lot.
And so for number 8, she managed to dovetail all the stories and wrap them all up. And at the end, we thought that the Claw had died. Of course, he was. You can't really kill a good villain. They'll always come back.
You can't. You can't. It's
but
like a cat.
Lorelei did come up with the original idea for the Crooked Claw. I think she was, looking more for a more comical type character, a la Hooded Claw, Penelope Pitstop. My own idea of it was more like the classic archetypical villain, or combined with the faceless stranger of fantasies,
Mhm.
you know. So that's why you will never see his face. In effect, because you don't want to remove that mystery.
Right.
And also, if it's masked, it could be anybody. It could be you.
Right.
So
it's a lot easier for someone to place themselves in the situation if they want to.
or well, anyway.
In the
So
character.
in the
yes.
character. So then, in the Revenge, sort of picked up the story from where it left off. The great heroes and villains. Sherlock Holmes must have his Moriarty, and the Crooked Claw had Sadie Sly, this detective, hard-boiled detective, who's out for revenge for making him fall off the cliff at the end of the TV series. And so that particular one drew heavily from the Phantom of the Opera, and we found an old theater. It was actually not far.
Yeah,
from
I was going to say it was filmed
the
in
Haunted
theater,
Studios
right?
in North Hollywood,
Yeah.
where we shot that. It was wonderful. It was like 100 degrees with no air conditioning that day. I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt and a 20-pound cape and a hood.
And they still exist.
Yes.
Haunted Studios still exists. I think.
Yes, as far as I know, yes.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was a wonderful day. Catalina Lamore took up the position of Virtuous Venus because Annie Ash had gone on to bigger and better things by that point. And so that, and actually for Revenge of the Claw, if we all weren't so pulled in so many different directions, it could have been a little bit more focused. It would have actually been much more like the Phantom of the Opera. I wanted at one point, when he takes control of Virtuous Venus, to actually have him sing to her a la Phantom of the Opera. And Lorelei was working for Close Up Concepts at the time, and she found one of the guys down there who had a wonderful, baritone voice, and of course I can't write music. I would have had to rely on somebody else for that, write the lyrics. But the song did not get written or recorded, so oh well. Maybe someday.
See, there's always something else you can work on.
Lorelei was just sharing that when the Crooked Claw fell off the cliff in the first movie, he yelled, "Confound it!"
Well, see, that's the thing. That's what I thought was sort of interesting. Brought it all full circle. Is in the very first TBE thing. The very first thing the Claw says is "confound it."
Nice.
So, which was something I confounded. My banana bomb test blew the roof off my old hideout. And so by the way, if I do. Addition to Claw Chronicles, you will also, I wanted to have the thing where he, tries to take the potassium out of the bananas to create banana bombs. So if you see a bunch of bananas with a little timer on it, be careful.
Be careful. Just so you know. They're not safe.
Well, there are also other things in Claw Chronicles, by the way, that I did not get to, for one reason or another. One was the Young Claw, which was very heavily like The Graduate.
Oh my God, that was so awesome.
It's a great scene.
It was.
That was a wonderful scene. Set up the scene just a little bit.
Well, pretty much, Young Claw is going out on his first caper, and so he goes to this warehouse and runs into the security guard, who was played by Lorelei, and he does the worst on-screen time job ever. Of course, she's encouraging him because she secretly, is having a good time with this, and so
not so secretly, though.
Well,
but he's oblivious.
Yeah,
He is oblivious.
trying to remain focused
Yes.
on the
He's
job.
very
like a
focused.
white button-down shirt and jeans.
Blue, yeah. It's a blue, like blue work shirt.
The original Claw wore a blue shirt. It's sort of like Luke Skywalker. Getting more black as the series progresses. But before the warehouse. See, I wanted to do one where Claw's having that chat with his father. Saying, "It's time to go, son." And he says, "Father, all my life to be," fill in the blank. I didn't know what the blank was going to be. In the original Graduate, Dustin Hoffman's character says, "I want my life to be different," and I sort of, the obvious thing was that I want my life to be evil, but that would have been obvious, and so I thought, well, let's think up something else. But I could not ever come up with that something else. And so I thought about just having it
let it
cut.
go.
Just cut, edit, and let people fill in the blank with what they want to. And then at the end, after his romance with Officer Imbach does not go well, and he has to leave her, I want him to come back for her wedding, and come to stand at the back of the church, and see them there doing the ceremony below, and start to bang on the glass, and then think better of it and say, hell with it, I'm just going to steal the wedding presents and go away.
And not steal her on her wedding night. She would love that.
That would come later.
Yeah.
Anyway.
She would so much. I loved seeing this movie. It was just so wonderful, and of course you set it up so beautifully because you showed two of the previous films to kind of set us up to the Claw Chronicles. And I was telling John earlier that although I knew about the Crooked Claw and I knew about this character and I knew some of the scenes and I knew some of the backstory, I had never seen any of it. And I certainly hadn't seen it in this sort of presentation where we kind of get to see the evolution of this character all at once, because usually, I mean, even just the standard consumer wouldn't necessarily get to do that because, depending on what order you're buying things in. So it's really, really incredible to be able to see that. And also what was fun for me was watching these scenes in the Claw Chronicles, and I'm able to go, oh, I know when you shot that, because that was open-minded this time, and then this was the second open mind, and then this was the third open mind, and you could see sort of the, what order things were filmed in and then edited to later. Now, something that I knew, that I found out watching this that I hadn't known previously, was that the Crooked Claw has a brother.
Yes.
And the brother is Viper.
Right.
Played by
Chase Rocco.
Chase Rocco, yeah.
Right. And that was in Revenge of the Claw, when the government troops the federal troops, whatever, are coming in to seize him, or size him if you're a Larry Lamire fan. They send Viper in to get him, and as well, and he refers to him as his brother. And so there was I was planning another Claw sequel after that, that sadly did not get made, and that was to fill in some of those little gaps that were missing, like have the confrontation where Viper is about to shoot him or something, and of course he pulls out his fiancée from under his cape and holds her in front of him as a shield, as he then opens a trap door and escapes, and on like that. So actually that was how the next movie would have started, with that. And then he goes through the trap door, through a chute, to a motorcycle. There's of course a woman tied up on the back of the motorcycle.
Sure.
Gets on, takes off, sees his jet blow up because that would be later. Tells his pilot Kenny to take the jet to Taya as a diversion, of course not knowing that the jet had been sabotaged by Sadie Sly.
Exactly.
And that's why they thought he'd blown up. And Kenneth is his pilot. So he looks up at the plane exploding and said, "You killed Kenny, you bastards."